now it works. Hold that thought. There we go. Forgot to turn on the filter. Beautiful. I beg your pardon. Sorry for the hiccup. I'm just going to keep that in there just because, why the hell not? It's fairly authentic. It happens to everyone, every pipe smoker every day. So let's face it, smoking our pipes, nothing's perfect. Hold that thought again. This is Gentleman Scholar. I wanted to wish you a happy International Pipe Smoking Day. It just happened to fall on the time when I was getting ready to smoke my pipe anyway, so I decided to do it. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is my first International Pipe Smoking Day. Dave, how do you do it? It's kind of tricky. You see in movies, like the Sherlock Holmes movies with Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce, they're both smoking pipes. They're holding entire conversations with pipes in their mouths while they're doing this, that, and the other thing. That is truly the sign of inveterate pipe smokers. Anyway. What's been going on? Just came back from a 2-day trip. I rarely do 2-day trips, but this one took me through my old training grounds of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Now, the front of the airport has changed considerably. It looks almost alien, but the rest of it looks pretty much as I remembered it since I was hired there in 1990. And come to think of it, it was this time of 1990 I was still in training, and I forget where exactly. It was obviously a Minnesota training building F at the Northwest compound. And they had us at a plaza. They were putting us up at a plaza for training, where we'd go after our intensive training purposes. I forget the name of the plaza, and I think it was Minnetonka, Minnesota? Bloomington? I don't know. It was cold. That's all I know. It was Siberia cold. As a matter of fact, when I first landed, looking back now, it was a 757 that I was on. It back then, I didn't know what plane I was on. When we landed there, it was frigid, and I just wanted the thing over with the second that I landed. But there was 6 weeks of intensive training and indoctrination to a certain degree to go through before that happened. And I'll tell you what, it was the first time since high school that I felt like I was going back to high school. Even college wasn't that. I'm not trying to come up with any negative adjectives for high school, but we all know what high school is like. And it's sort of like forced socialization, and training was very much like that. Everyone fell into the requisite cliques and everything, like, birds of a feather flock together and everything like that. And that's one of the reasons why I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. Testing every day, well, pretty much every day. You could only fail 3 tests and then you were out. Not that learning to become a flight attendant was hard, but it was a lot of material to cover. And if you've never been in the airline industry at all, they just kept throwing this stuff at you. I know at the time in the fleet they had about, I don't know, like 7 or 8 planes, and you had to know the specs for each of them, the evacuation protocols for each of them. And back in my more naive days, I was thinking, you'd think this is important life-saving stuff. You'd think they'd learn how to standardize these procedures in some way. But the thing is, it's impossible, because when you're buying all these planes at a garage sale or whatever, each manufacturer has different specs for how, you arm a door, you disarm a door, you evacuate. The equipment is different, so the training had to be specific to the equipment. I get that now. Then the bankruptcy came, and then that Northwest bought another airline and merged with it, thus creating kind of a whole new culture in some ways. Um, in a way, it was like joining another airline entirely, and the transition wasn't exactly smooth, put it that way. I won't mention the airline's name. Suffice it to say that it's based in the South. It's a legacy airline. And if you know those two things, I'm sure you can figure it out. Um, but, but when I had to go back into training for them, I had a base, I had a context from which to work from, so that all this information didn't seem so overwhelming. To pass those tests, I wasn't quite so afraid, because when you go from a background of, well, I was a bill collector before I was a flight attendant, dunning people for their money, and it was soul crushing work, and I hated it. One of the reasons why I went for the interview with Northwest Airlines, and I got I had an interview with the first Pan American, bombed it. Then the second interview, I learned from the mistakes of that first one, and dressed myself up like little was Alex Keaton, little boy Republican, tie, suit, all of which I got at Goodwill, because I could buy a new suit for that. And I told them everything they wanted to hear, which has been the cornerstone of this career ever since. Told them everything they wanted to hear, got a secondary meeting, and then I got called about 3 or 4 weeks later to see if I wanted to be a candidate for training. And I had travel background, so of course I said yes. They sent me this little package. Learn this stuff before you come to training. And one of them was this book full of 3-letter city codes. Every city, I should say every airport that's in a city, has a 3-letter city code that is used for itinerary and planning purposes. It's used throughout the airline industry. Anyone who ships things, anything that has to do with aircraft, they use these 3-letter city codes. And I knew like 90% of them from college already. So, for example, Manchester, New Hampshire is MHT. Trying to use another example. I'm pretty sure everyone knows that Los Angeles is LAX. That kind of deal. But yeah, I mean, that's when a lot of people know I'm a letter writer. So when I'm writing, I kind of want to write the 3-letter city code, but the other person on the other end is not going to know what I'm talking about. So, but when I write my journal, I do use a 3-letter city code, because it's my journal. Hopefully, while I'm alive, no one's going to take another look at it. And I'm going on 10 minutes here. So I'm gonna close this up. I just wanted to say once again, happy Pipe Smoking Day, happy International Pipe Smoking Day. I hope you're well. Thank you, YTPC, for making me a better person in general. All the best to you, and speak to you soon.